I call it the nightly perimenopause wake up call. 3 to 4 a.m. for some reason is the magic hour for our bodies waking us up. And then, we're crabby during the rest of the day, which is why I started with the sleep and anxiety gummies. And as I said, anxiety.
Welcome, Emily. Thank you for joining the Darren Well podcast. I'm excited for you to share your insights about perimenopause and menopause symptoms, emotional health, self-care, mindset, all the things so that we can learn to age with more grace and self-love. For our listeners, as you're listening today to our guest story, I hope that you walk away feeling more empowered to love the body that you're in and the stage of life that you're in. So, Emily, before we jump into your story, can you please briefly share your bio, your background, what inspired you to become a menopause coach? So, tell us about that.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for having me. In 2021, I had not had the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Well, I was a photographer at that point, and things were difficult already. I was a dance photographer here in Orlando, and things were, I was sort of struggling to make a living as it was. And then COVID happened, and it got even harder to do in-person shoots. And I was so looking forward to the vaccine coming out. And I finally got it. I was super excited. And within a week or so of me taking the second shot, I started having these crazy symptoms: super red eyes, super dry. I would wake up and my eyes would just be crusted over, like I had to pop them open with my fingers. And saw an eye doctor, and he said, "Oh, it's allergies." On and on. And then started developing these sort of genitourinary symptoms, so painful sex and urination and UTIs, things like that. And luckily for me, with the eye thing, I had a doctor friend in town within a month or two of this, and she said, "I think that's autoimmune." And I'd never had an autoimmune diagnosis before. So I saw a rheumatologist, and it turned out to be something called Sjogren's syndrome, which is where your body attacks the moisture producing glands. So it made sense that it was eye problems, tear duct problems, salivary glands, and genitourinary things where you need moisture. And I didn't have any moisture. So it took just a few months to get diagnosed, which is really unusual because autoimmune things are so difficult to find sometimes. But I spent, even though it was diagnosed quickly, an entire year trying to figure out the painful sex and the urinary problems. And eventually found myself at a pelvic floor physical therapist who thought that it was more functional, that I needed to work on stretches and sort of mindset and that sort of thing. And I never really did think that was the problem. I had actually been to my normal gynecologist, told him I was having a lot of trouble and pain. And in the way that I think male gynecologists do, or very experienced gynecologists do, he sort of brushed me off and said, "Oh, just have a glass of wine before sex." And I was like, I am 45 years old. Like, this is not my first time.
That's the clinical recommendation. Have a
I
glass of
know,
wine
right?
before sex. Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, first off, you shouldn't be telling people to drink just so they can endure it. And this is supposed to be fun. This is not supposed to feel like a root canal. And that's what it felt like.
Mm.
And so that's how I ended up seeing the pelvic floor physical therapist. And I really thought it was, because it came on so suddenly, really thought that it was something that needed a medical treatment more than a stretching and mindset sort of treatment. And she was able to recommend a new gynecologist, and they knew immediately that it was this Sjogren's syndrome and how to treat it, which is with a vaginal estrogen. But during all of this time, this year that I was trying to figure this out and struggling, and being luckily very supported by my partner, I tried a million different things and realized how many overlapping symptoms there were between menopause, perimenopause, and autoimmune disorders. So I was looking for pain relief, I was looking for anxiety, and all of this was going on in the midst of, I'm in my later 40s by this point, and trying to sort out one thing from another. And eventually figured out that a lot of it had to do with menopause and started a menopause group on Facebook that now has over 11,000 people in it.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I was just absolutely amazed how much people are struggling. And I asked them, what do they need? What products do you wish existed that weren't out there, that aren't out there? And they said overwhelmingly sleep and anxiety. And
Yeah.
so I set about trying to make something over the counter for sleep and anxiety. And so I came up with two different gummies that have melatonin, ashwagandha, and L-theanine, which are all natural things that help with anxiety and sleep disorders that people get in menopause. One of them is available on Amazon now as well. One of them is on my Shopify store. And they've helped me so much. And the thing I say all the time is even if if they never catch on, if I never, have an international brand like I would like to have, I'm so proud of them, and I'm really proud of what's happening on Facebook because I think it helps people realize that they're not alone. They feel like they've done something wrong by being, sick in menopause, by not feeling well, by gaining weight. And so I have people, messaging me all the time, and I feel like they think they are less alone now, and I'm really proud of that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. That was really cool to see your journey of getting into this because of what you've walked through and not having the answers. Thank you for sharing that. Can you briefly share some of the perimenopause and menopause symptoms for women that
Sure.
are coming to this stage and they don't know like what's going on? Is their body betraying them? So yeah, if you could
Yes.
share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Sure. Well, one thing people noticed, like you said, was sleep disorders, sleep disturbances. I call it the nightly perimenopause wake up call. 3 to 4 a.m. for some reason is the magic hour for our bodies waking us up. And then, we're crabby during the rest of the day, which is why I started with the sleep and anxiety gummies. And as I said, anxiety, weight gain is one that really bothers people, hair loss, low energy, joint pain. There are at least 50 symptoms. Another one is the third thing that people asked me for between sleep and anxiety was hot flash. People have a terrible time with hot flashes and night sweats. I've heard so many stories of women in business meetings giving presentations. Doctor friend was in a room with a patient and just had a hot flash, just melted practically in the room. Luckily, the patient's mother, she's a pediatrician. Luckily, the patient's mother was like, "Oh, girl, I got you. I know what you're going through there." So, so those are several of them, and I think the thing that I wasn't expecting, and a lot of people weren't expecting, really was the anxiety part. People who have always felt like they were really on a pretty even keel, or at least felt like they could manage any anxiety they had with exercise or melatonin for sleep or things like that, just can't seem to right the ship when it falls over,
Yeah.
and they blame themselves, and that's the part that I really want to change. It's that
Thank you. Thank
um,
you, thank you, thank you. For me personally, but also for the
yes,
clients that I encounter, like that's a real thing and it's coming out of nowhere. It feels like
yeah,
coming out of nowhere.
yes, absolutely. One statistic that I toss out occasionally for that people are shocked by is the fact that the time in a woman's life when she is most likely to attempt suicide is age 45 to 55. And
Wow.
I fully believe that it is because of these hormonal changes. And of course, you've got maybe kids leaving for college. Maybe you're reevaluating your work situation. You might have aging parents or a marriage that's not doing well, things like that. But if you add these insane hormonal changes equivalent to what you went through in puberty, add that to just the complexity of life in your 40s, I can see that it would make someone extremely hopeless, and you feel like it's your fault somehow.
Mm, yeah.
And that I
A
think
lot
is
of shame.
there is a lot of shame about it, and the media, it's so funny. I've actually asked people, why do you think people don't talk about menopause? Why do you think it's a taboo subject? And my answer to that is it's two things. One, it's icky period stuff. It's stuff that makes men uncomfortable. And then secondly, no one wants to admit that they are of a certain age. And you're supposed to stay young forever. And if you don't, it's somehow your fault. You're not exercising enough. You're not eating right. You've done something wrong by letting your hair go gray or whatever the thing is. And what I've realized through this work is that you can do absolutely everything right. And you're still going to go through menopause. It is going to happen. You cannot push it off. And there are going to be some things that you never thought would happen, like gaining 30 pounds overnight, that are not your fault, even if you're doing everything right. And that's what I want people to know.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for sharing that. That's an interesting statistic. So say that statistic again.
The time in a woman's life when she's most likely to attempt suicide is between 45 and 55 years old.
Wow. Wow.
So
Talk about a perfect storm.
yeah, it really is. I mean, it's terrible. I don't know your history if you're married or with children or whatever, but I know so many people whose children are going off to college. So many people whose parents are in bad health. They're in a work situation where their menopause is sort of ignored or even ridiculed, and I totally get that level of desperation. The other thing is that you go to a doctor of any kind and you say, I'm having all these problems, and they might prescribe you an antidepressant, which some people find offensive. They don't think they need that. But I actually am a big advocate if that's something that can help you. And the reason is the anxiety, the sleeplessness, and all the things that can be helped by antidepressants are very real. But the other thing is that some SSRIs have actually shown a reduction in hot flash symptoms. So
Really?
yes, they're sort of off label. So if even your gynecologist recommends an antidepressant, they're not saying you're crazy. They're not saying this is never going to go away on its own, but it could help you with hot flash and mood as well.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Taking away the shame little
Yes.
by little, little by little.
Another thing I really don't like that I see in a lot of menopause advertising that really bothers me, and I think it contributes to the shame, is this idea of balancing your hormones. The thing that I say about that is if you were type 1 diabetic and your pancreas was not making insulin anymore, you can't balance your hormones. You can't balance your insulin. If you don't have insulin, you will die. That is what's happened here in menopause. Your body is no longer making estrogen. It's not going to kill you, but it might feel like it's going to. And no amount of eating right or balancing, whatever that means, is going to bring back the estrogen that is no longer being produced.
Yeah.
So you may do fine, you may fly through it and be quite well. or you might be really, really sick and really miserable and suicidal. So don't think you have done anything wrong by not being able to balance your hormones. That's not a thing.
Thank you for sharing that. That's part of the conversation as well. It's like from the medical side. Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about the method. Can you speak about the method acronym and how that helps?
Sure. This is funny. I don't consider myself a productivity coach or anything like that, but I do work at home and have for many years and have to wrangle my brain into doing things that I don't want to do all the time. And so I have a little acronym that I made up that helps me check off a few important things during the day. And it is method. And so the M in method is for money. I have a lot of anxiety around money. And so I check my bank accounts. It sounds like I check them because I want to know how much money I have, but it's really more to sort of take away the anxiety anxiety I have if I just look at them once a month. If I look at them more frequently, it helps me relax and feel in control of my money situation.
So financial wellness.
Absolutely. And just sort of taking away this thing that I feel like has power over me, I think. Number two is exercise. And like I said, these are not particularly for menopause, but I think a lot of them could be used in that way. And you can replace, some of these if they're not things that you struggle with. E is exercise. And about 6 months ago, I started working out with a trainer 3 times a week, lifting weights, which is a very important thing for menopause. One of the reasons
Also, speak on that.
Yes. One of the reasons we gain weight in menopause is because of muscle loss. And so you will lose, I think, about 1% of your muscle every year starting around age 40. And it's very important for burning calories, for balance, for general overall health. And so I've started lifting weights with a trainer because I think that's extremely important. And also I try to do about 150 minutes a week of cardio, light cardio, because as far as I'm concerned, I am working out to stay out of the nursing home. That is the goal. I'm working on my old lady body.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And
When I
I
speak with
saw
clients,
some
like that's
Facebook.
the thing. We have to focus on what's the motivation? What's the
Yeah.
motivation? Yeah, that's
Well, and
good.
I saw a little, Facebook graphic a while back that really inspired me. And it said, I would rather be the oldest person in the weight room than the youngest person in the nursing home. And
Ooh,
I know,
yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can't claim that as my own, but I live by it,
I
honestly.
like that. Put that
Yeah.
as a motto on my wall.
Absolutely. So exercise is E. T is teaching. So in my Facebook group and Instagram, I put up, and I need to do more videos and things like that. But in my Facebook and Instagram, I put tips of the day, little infographics. I ask my group, how you're feeling today, what can I help you with? So that's the teaching element as something I do every day. Here's one I have a feeling that you might think is kind of funny, and that is haters. H is haters.
Okay.
And haters is a 3-minute meditation that I do every day where I think about people who have told me that I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't interesting enough, I wasn't going to be successful, I wasn't good with money. People who have told me things that I believed at the time, told me starting a business is crazy, all of these different things. I think about those people. And I just have this fantasy of running into them at the airport and looking fabulous and telling them about, all the places I've been and things I've done. And it gives me just a little bit of boost to get up and do the thing that I don't feel like doing today. I also think about that doctor that told me to have a glass of wine. I consider him a hater as well. So,
Yeah, yeah. The medical system definitely sometimes I do believe so my kids are grown and have babies of their own.
oh, wow.
And and as a being a therapist and a coach, I believe I can't think of any other jobs. And so I'm just I'm curious if anybody else has any other things, but I always tell my clients, so being a good parent and being a really good coach
Hmm.
or therapist, like that's your job is to work yourself out of a job. And so, but the
Hmm.
medical field, like that's their job is to keep you as a recurring client. And so
Hmm.
if they can get, not give you all the answers, if they can give you a Band-Aid fix with this pill and that pill, again, medicine is helpful for those that it's required or it's sometimes helpful to get over the hump. But the medical field, like going in for your car change, oil change,
Hmm.
like all these things are built for having you as a recurring client.
That's very true.
Clothing, like everything. I can't think of anything else. If you're doing your job right as a coach, as a therapist, as a good parent, like you don't want a 40-year-old kid still living at home, right? Like
No.
there's only one room for alpha male and alpha female, and that's me and my husband.
Oh, that's
You know
great.
what
I
I
love
mean?
that.
So that's that other than a good therapist and a good coach,
Oh.
a good parent, like that's your job is to work yourself out of a job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I did want to clarify just for a second. I did mention the vaccine earlier. I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-vax.
Thank you for clarifying that.
No, I'm absolutely not anti-vax. I feel like I had this autoimmune disorder before I got that vaccine, and it really just threw my immunity through the roof. I
Yeah.
feel like it was right under the surface, and the vaccine brought it out. That being said, I had such a strong reaction. Maybe I would have died of COVID. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm against vaccines in any way, but this was the result of mine. And I believe it was because it ramped up my immunity so much.
Yeah.
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 So haters, that's the other one. That's the fourth one. Uh, O is outreach. So
Mhm.
every day I try to reach out to people that can help me in my business in some way, to friends, to people I don't see enough of. So even if you're not in any sort of business, just having on your list of things to do, reach out to a friend every single day, I think is a really great mental health tip. And then the last one is D for diet. So I have started just since the beginning of the year doing, because of the autoimmune stuff, I've got all of these food sensitivities that I never had before. So at the beginning of the year, I started doing food prep, meal prep. And so I have the same thing every day for breakfast. And then I make up a couple of different salads, like grill up 5 or 6 days worth of chicken, a pound of chicken, and make salads and eat on those all week. So that is the diet part, and then try to eat pretty reasonably for dinner. So with those 6 items, I give myself a little check mark every day for those things. My partner thinks I might maybe be on the spectrum a little bit. It does make me very happy to see my check marks every day.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
like that.
yeah, and so if I get a 4, 5, 6 for the day, and I look back, and I haven't been getting my 4, 5, 6, and I'm not feeling great, that might be why. I haven't reached out to anybody. I haven't been eating right. I haven't been getting exercise. And I think, if you can replace the things that you don't need, you may not be someone who's in a position to be teaching. Come up with another T. What's another T that could help you? And you can give yourself some little check marks. You might see maybe why you're not feeling so good this week. You haven't been doing these things that you need.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think the T is important because thinking about like so whether you're teaching as a Facebook group, but you got to find a way that you're pouring into other people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So mentoring, I do believe that. So people pour into us, and so I
Mm-hmm.
do believe it's our obligation as a human a good human
Absolutely.
to pour back into others. And so yeah, I do love the tea. I do love the tea.
Mhm. Good. You're doing great
So
with the tea.
thank you. Thank you. So as we think about like self-care and mindset tips and starting to wrap up, what are some ideas that you have as far as words of wisdom to help ladies with dealing with self-care and mindset for
Sure.
menopause?
Well, I am not a doctor, so do not come to me for medical advice. But I will tell you this. I am a certified menopause coach. So I do know a little about this stuff. And one of those things is HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And that can help with all of these symptoms from hot flashes to anxiety to weight gain, all of these different things. And there has been in the last 20 plus years a movement against HRT, and I am very much opposed to that. And the reason is I think a lot of younger doctors are coming around to this now. In 2002, a study came out that said that if you take HRT, if you replace your estrogen because you feel terrible, you replace your estrogen, that doubles your risk of breast cancer. And that's
Mm,
actually true. However, what it means is that there was a teeny, teeny, tiny chance that you would die of breast cancer. It's 1.3 out of 10,000 women will die of breast cancer. Tiny microscopic amount. That doubles to 2.6 out of 10,000 women will die of breast cancer. It's still ridiculously small, but the media
something to
heard,
be aware of. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. The media heard you're doubling your chance of breast cancer and freaked out. And then in medical school, they started teaching don't give hormone replacement unless it's absolutely necessary because it's going to cause breast cancer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't a flawed study. It wasn't misrepresented. It was nothing like that. It was just the media ran with this idea of you're going to double your chance of breast cancer. So women are scared of HRT. However, younger doctors now are going back and looking at this and saying, yes, but the risk is really, really small. It can help with your mental health. It can help with your mood. It can help with your weight. It can help with possibly dementia and heart disease. Um, but certainly 100% can help with osteoporosis and bone loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you are struggling and your doctor won't talk to you about HRT because of the cancer risk, there are other people, there are many, many doctors that realize just like any other medication, it's got its benefits and its risks, just like anything else in the world. And you can make an informed decision, but don't feel like you're defeated or that you're out of options if you are really struggling and you need an HRT or you need an antidepressant or you need a hot flash medicine. It's no different than a broken leg or diabetes. It's just a medical condition that you did not cause yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Any other self-care mindset tips?
I really hope that everyone has a partner at work, in their life, a romantic partner, their children, and God bless you if you've got teenage daughters at home. I'm so sorry. um, but if you've got people in your life that are supportive and really want to understand what you're going through, because that will make all the difference in the world, just like any illness. The thing I would say for self care around menopause is treat it like any other illness. It's not your fault. Find people who love you, who can take some of the weight off your shoulders, exercise, eat right, and realize that medication can help you regardless. Find someone who will take you seriously and give you what you need.
Sweet. Sweet. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for joining today, for sharing some more about perimenopause and menopause. I'm so excited for women to hear more about this topic. So, as we wrap up today, what are some ways that women can connect with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook at still.forher, still for her. Same on Instagram. Most of my socials are still.for her. I've also got, I'll give it to you for your show links, my product for sleep and anxiety is on Amazon, and I would love to give your listeners a coupon code for 20% off if that's all right with you.
Thank you so much.
Sure. When you check out in Amazon, it should give you a place to put in a coupon code and get 20% off your first order from Amazon from Still for Her. So I would love to see everyone there and send me a message and tell me where you heard from me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you for dropping some words of wisdom. Also, ways just kind of destigmatizing this stage of life. Like it's just a human stage of life. And we
Absolutely.
women, we carry so many roles and we wear so many different hats that this is something that we should not be like staying silent and suffering in silence. There's just so much information out there. So thank you
Yeah.
for the work that you're doing to help other women.
Thank you so much. And we Gen Xers have to stick together and
Yeah.
because we're going through it now. We never thought we'd get there, but here we are.
I thought that was like in your 60s and
I
70s.
know.
And now I'm like, oh no, this is me.
Well, awesome, Rita. Well, thank you for having me. You're doing great work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, listeners, have a beautiful day. Take care. God bless.